Hello everybody and welcome to Mother Rabbit's Kitchen. Today we are making a really delicious Caesar salad. We're going to start with some kale, we're going to use some sprouts, we are going to use a very delicious homemade Caesar dressing. We're going to toss it all together, get it really creamy and yummy, and top it off with some fresh avocado, grilled chicken, and some crispy croutons. And don't forget that Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. Pile it on high. It is going to be delicious. Let's get started. I started my Caesar dressing a little earlier in the day because the flavors just get even more intense and wonderful as it sits. So I'm starting in a big, pretty wide mouthed jar, and I'm going to crack a few eggs. This really requires no recipe, just taste buds and intuition. So I'm going to start by making a homemade mayo with a couple of eggs, some apple cider vinegar, a little bit of Dijon, and I did not use a recipe at all. Okay, I have got some avocado oil here. So this is just the mayonnaise. Okay, I did kind of use a recipe in the sense that I looked at all of the ingredients that belong in a Caesar dressing, but then I let my taste buds and my intuition do the rest. And I find that that is the best way to make a dressing, because if you follow directions too closely, then you have to rely on them every single time. So I'm making my mayo here by sticking my immersion blender in the bottom and just blending all of it up, and it makes a really delicious creamy homemade mayo that is just doesn't have any preservatives or anything. I'm tasting that just to make sure it's good, and that was actually the best mayo I've ever had. I would never taste mayo out of a jar. I think it's really gross by itself, but this was actually really, really tasty. And then I'm going to start layering in my Caesar dressing ingredients, and I'm starting with a nice juicy lemon that was full of juice. So I'm squeezing it through my fingers to catch all the seeds. I'm just kind of squeezing that other hand to let the juice come out, but squeezing the seeds so that they don't fall through my fingers. And I'm just doing that entire lemon and squeezing each half really, really well. I added a little bit more Dijon mustard, a good dose of the Worcestershire sauce, and then this is anchovy paste. And if that freaks you out, well, get over it, because it makes the Caesar dressing taste incredible. So this is Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. You got to look for that rind in the back to know it's the real stuff from Italy. And I'm going to grate on my microplane grater a ton of Parmesan in here. That is also essential for a really, really good Caesar dressing. Now that is really it, other than some salt and a lot of pepper. Oh wait, except for the garlic. So grate about 1 clove of garlic. Now this garlic is raw, so a little goes a long way. So start slow. I did add a little olive oil at this point, and then in the end when I tasted it, it was incredible, but I could taste the olive oil and I felt like I should have just stuck with the neutral oil the whole time. So I'm salting it and peppering it really, really well. In a Caesar dressing, all those little flecks, that's pepper. So you really want to go heavy on the pepper, even if you don't think you're a pepper person, because who's an anchovy person? And the anchovies are what make it taste so well. So at this point, you are going to see me blending and tasting and adjusting and blending and tasting and adjusting. You are going to see me add an obscene amount of anchovy paste, because I'm just squeezing probably a half teaspoon or a teaspoon at a time. You definitely want to go slow with the anchovy paste and taste it as you go, because a little goes a long way, and if you go too heavy on it, it's just going to taste like fish, and we don't want our salad or our dressing tasting like fish. But you can see that I am going back and forth, and I threw in a little extra Worcestershire, whatever you want to call it, and I just kept going and tasting it. It was so okay. I'm adding a little bit more anchovy paste. I think that's the last time I do that, but it made the dressing taste like the best Caesar dressing ever. Oh, look how creamy that is. One of my favorite Caesar dressings is the one from Carrabba's, and so I kind of know what that tastes like in my head, and then I just go for it. I'm showing you right there that the Caesar dressing really only comes about halfway up that jar, even though it looks like it filled up the entire jar. It didn't. It probably made about 2 cups. Now, you have seen me make croutons on here probably a billion times, because for some reason, every time I make anything, it involves croutons. So it's a salad, so that makes a lot of sense here. So I'm just cubing up some bread ends, spraying them really, really well with olive oil, and salting and peppering them liberally. And then I'm going to throw in a little bit of garlic powder as well. And that's all you need. And you'll see in a minute, after I pepper this, I'm going to start tossing them. And at one point I asked my daughter to come in and spray them again. One thing that I did notice, or my kids noticed, is that ever since I started spraying the olive oil on the croutons, that they weren't as delicious as when I was dousing them with just by pouring olive oil all over them. So I'm still spraying them, but I'm giving them a good couple of layers of spray. And so I had her do it since my hands were already all like wet from the olive oil from tossing it. I figured she could just spray it for me and then I could get back in there with my already oily hands and give them one more toss. Now I have my oven set to 350 and I just threw the croutons in there for about 15 minutes. Now I'm seasoning my chicken breasts really, really well. And that means I'm just taking some kosher salt. I use Redmond kosher salt and then salting them and peppering them on both sides. And lately I haven't been slicing my chicken breasts in half to thin them out because it takes up too much space in the pan and it is just an extra step of dealing with raw chicken that I don't want to deal with on a cutting board and having to wash it and all that stuff. So I'm just kind of putting these thick breasts in the hot cast iron pan with some avocado oil. And I usually try to look at the thickest part of a breast or the thickest breast in the bunch and put it in the middle of the cast iron since that is the hottest part and the smaller ones go on the outside. Here are my sprouts that I've been growing. These are broccoli sprouts, one of the healthiest things you could possibly eat. They're so easy to grow and so delicious in salads and wraps and a million things. If you want to know more about growing them, watch my video about growing broccoli sprouts. So I'm just, I rinsed and now I'm drying the broccoli sprouts in my salad spinner, which is such a cool invention. No idea who invented the salad spinner, but excellent job. And my kids like to spin it as well. So now they're nice and clean and dry, and the salad spinner also gets rid of the seeds. And now I'm grabbing my kale. And the way that I'm measuring how much kale I want to use is I get out the bowls that I'm going to be serving my salads in. So those are my large salad bowls, and that's what's going to be for my husband and I. And then, so I'm using 2 of those, and I'm using a third because I'm realizing that like if I fill that large one up one more time, that will be enough for all of my kids who will be eating salads. And I'm saying that because I have one kid who cannot eat a salad. It's a whole story. Look how pretty the sprouts look just in that mix. And I will tell you, adding the sprouts was the most delicious addition because the way that they're textured, they're almost like little sponges. They absorb the dressing in all of their textured nooks and crannies. So it was such a fun way to incorporate a lot of nutrition into this meal and also amplify the flavor. So I'm pouring a good amount of dressing into my greens here. And I know I'm going to use a good amount of dressing, but I also don't want to go overboard because you can always add more dressing, but you can't take it away. So I'm giving, with my tongs here, I'm giving the greens a good toss. Now, kale is a coarser green. It's so good for you and it's really delicious here, but it's not like lettuce. It really needs a lot of dressing. So I noticed that it was not quite dressed enough to my liking, and I'm adding a little bit more dressing. I am dressing these well enough that when I add my other ingredients, like my chicken and everything, tasting so delicious, so that when I add my other ingredients, I don't need to dress it on top of those ingredients as well. I dress my greens so well that it flavors the whole thing. And I got out a really perfectly ripe avocado, and that adds so much creaminess and just that umami flavor that is so yummy in a Caesar salad. And I'm just using half of it, and I know that might look kind of weird, but it's a really good way to limit the browning on an avocado that I'm going to stick in the fridge overnight. Here I'm plating the first large salad, and I'm adding about half of the avocado onto that, and the other half will go onto my daughters, and it's only the 2 of us who really enjoy avocado. So it's just for the 2 of us, and I'm going to, my croutons are done, but I'm just going to let them sit while I get everything. What is he doing? He's so cute. While everything is coming together, I'm letting my croutons sit and just crisp up on the stove. And I'm slicing through my perfectly cooked grilled chicken. Look at that sear, that browning on the outside. It's like crispy. The cast iron really mimics like a really delicious grilled chicken that you would do on the outside gas grill or charcoal grill. And I'm just starting to plate things and layer all the flavors in there. And that is it. It was the most divine Caesar salad ever. I hope you make it. I hope you enjoy it. And I'll see you next time.